to believe every word I say.
1973 wasn't just a year for reggae, it was the year some songs became forever. These are the tracks that still hit today like you're hearing them on a fresh speaker in a packed yard. Picture Jamaica in the early 70s. Sound systems shaking the night, vinyl spinning, bass lines rolling through the streets, and voices singing about love, struggle, and survival. Because this list isn't about old songs, it's about the records that shaped reggae's history, influence the world, and still spark arguments about what truly belongs in the top 10. So right now, we're counting down the top 10 reggae songs from 1973 we will never forget. Let's run it. I always picture this tune playing outside a little shop window in Kingston, speakers facing the street, bass rolling past people like heat. It's not flashy, it's heavy, like it's carrying a message you're supposed to hold on to. Now here's the grounding. This comes from Burning Spear's Studio One era, that early foundation where so many legends got shaped. The album Studio One presents Burning Spear is tied to Studio One, produced by Clement Coxone Dodd and recorded at Jamaica Recording and Publishing Studio. That's Real Roots infrastructure. Fun fact, a lot of those Studio One recordings had that band in a room feel because the musicians and engineers knew how to capture the live power of a groove without polishing the soul out of it. Why it's underrated today? Because it's not a party first tune, it's a message first tune. If you came up on fast playlists, you might miss how much strength is sitting inside that steady tempo. And the next tune, different mood, but it hits you with that train window heartbreak in a way only 1973 could.
All right, C-Trends fam, let's keep it real. We're pouring our hearts into bringing you the best celebrity news and music deep dives. But check it, a massive 98% of you aren't subscribed yet. Subscribing is how you can truly support us, helping us grow and create even better content. If you're vibing with what we do, take a sec to hit that subscribe button. It's free and makes a huge difference. Plus, ring that notification bell so you never miss out. Let's flip that 98% and build this C-Trends family together. Your support is everything.
Number 9, Dennis Brown, Westbound Train. This is one of those songs that makes you stare out the window like you're in a movie, even if you're just sitting on a plastic chair somewhere. It's tender, but it's not weak. It's the sound of a young voice learning how to carry grown feelings.
As far as I can see,
The scene in my head is always late night, radio low, street quiet, and that melody moving like wheels on a road you can't see yet. Facts matter here. Westbound Train was described as the biggest Jamaican hit of summer 1973. That's not small talk, that's the season. And Dennis Brown wasn't some random singer. He was already building the reputation that would make people call him the Crown Prince of Reggae later on. Fun fact, songs like this helped define how reggae could be sweet and emotional without losing its grit, like Lovers Rock Spirit before the label fully took over the conversation. Why it's underrated now? Because later Dennis Brown eras get more replay online, so newer listeners don't always go back to this early magic. Keep listening, because the next entry is where reggae starts sounding like a new kind of love language.
My God.
Number 8, Gregory Isaacs, My Only Lover. This one is smooth like silk, but there's a seriousness under it. Gregory didn't sing like he was begging. He sang like he knew love was powerful, and he was brave enough to say it plain. I remember how songs like this would shift the whole room. The tough guys got quiet, the girls leaned in. Even the DJ sounded gentler when he brought it in. Now the real history. In 1973, Gregory Isaacs set up his label African Museum, and My Only Lover is widely pointed to as an early cornerstone of what people later called lovers rock, and it was described as an immediate hit. Fun fact, My Only Lover is one of those records people talk about like a birth certificate, not because it was the only love tune, but because it helped lock in that softer, romantic reggae identity. Why it's underrated today? Because the genre moves so fast. Roots, dub, lovers, early dance hall energy brewing. So people sometimes forget how revolutionary it was to make reggae feel this intimate. And next, we're going from romance to rules, the kind of tune that makes you think while the rhythm still moves.
Isn't it? It's strange how princess.
Number 7, the Heptones, Book of Rules. This is that sweet spot where the harmony feels warm, but the lyrics feel like a lecture your future self thanks you for. It's the kind of song you hear young and you think is just catchy. Then you grow up and go, wait, they were really talking. I can see it now. Somebody playing it in the yard, kids running around, older people nodding like they've heard it 100 times, and it still feels true. Fact-wise, Book of Rules is tied to 1973, and it stayed alive because it wasn't just entertainment. It was wisdom with melody. Fun fact, this tune got a whole second life for many people years later because it kept popping up in reggae culture conversations as a teaching song, the kind you pass down. Why it's underrated now? Because it doesn't come with a flashy headline. It's not scandal music, it's life music, and that kind always ages the best. Don't blink, because the next one is where reggae starts walking into the world like, yeah, we're global now. Number 6, Toots and the Maytals, Funky Kingston. This is not a sit down and behave record. This is a move your body, smile with your whole face record. Toots had that gift. He could sound joyful and powerful at the same time, like a church shout and a street party meeting in the middle. The picture is easy. Sweaty dance floor, speakers working overtime, and that groove pulling even the shy people out of the corner. Now the facts. Funky Kingston is a 1973 era classic in the Toots story, and it became one of those titles that felt like more than a song. It felt like a stamp on the culture. Fun fact, Toots is one of the artists people credit with helping push the word reggae into wider conversation because his energy translated across countries even when people didn't fully understand the lyrics. Why it's underrated now? Because newer audiences sometimes treated like oldies, when really it's the blueprint for how reggae could be fun and serious and international. And now we're entering the part of the list where the songs don't just sound good, they come with real history behind them. Number 5, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Concrete Jungle. This song feels like walking through a city where everybody's moving fast, but inside they're tired. It's tension music, beautiful but uneasy, like you're trying to keep hope while the world keeps pressing down. I remember hearing it and thinking, this isn't just reggae, this is cinema. The way it builds, the way it warns you, this is a man describing the world as he's living it.
Where is the love to be found?
Now the facts and context. Catch a Fire was released the 13th April 1973, and Concrete Jungle sits right in that moment when the Wailers were stepping into international view through Island Records. The album was recorded across studios like Dynamic Sound, Harry J's, Randy's, and then the tapes went to London, where Chris Blackwell worked on the record and added overdubs. Here's the story I tease. Remember, I told you one of these classics came with courtroom smoke and real-world drama? This is that moment. Here's the balanced version. Different accounts agree there was a contract dispute tied to the group's recording situation at the time. The story goes that a disputed CBS contract connected to Danny Sims created major tension, and later, Sims and CBS took Chris Blackwell off island to court over the recordings.
I'll be always laughing like a clown.
According to the album history, Island won the case, and the settlement details included money and royalty arrangements, with Sims ending up with significant publishing rights connected to the songs. And it gets even wilder. The album's cover history includes that famous alternate sleeve photo of Marley, and the write-up notes Jamaican police raided Esther Anderson's house and seized the cover photo and film, never returning them. So when you hear Concrete Jungle, you're not just hearing a song, you're hearing a moment where reggae was fighting for space in the industry, fighting over rights, and still somehow creating art that outlived the drama. Fun fact, the original Zippo lighter cover was only used on the earliest pressings, which is why collectors treat it like treasure. Why it's underrated today? Because people talk about Marley like a monument, not a working artist in a messy industry. This song reminds you he was in the middle of it, not above it. And next, we slide into dub territory, where reggae starts sounding like it came from the future.
So don't you fumble, just be humble.
Number 4, The Upsetters, Black Panther. This is the kind of track that makes you pay attention to the space between sounds. The echo feels like it's bouncing off zinc fences, alley walls, and empty dance floors at 3 a.m. Dub doesn't beg you to sing along, dub dares you to listen deeper. I always imagine the engineer as the secret star here, hands on knobs, dropping instruments in and out like magic tricks. The big fact, Upsetters, 14. Dub Blackboard Jungle is widely described as an early dub landmark, even argued as the first dub album, and it was originally pressed in an extremely limited run, about 300 copies, which is why it became mythic. Fun fact, part of the legend is that later reissues came with different track listings, which only added to the mystery and debate around what the real original experience was. Why it's underrated now? Because dub can feel too strange for people who want vocals first. But once dub clicks for you, you realize this is where modern remix culture really starts breathing. Don't move, because the next two songs are the ones that made reggae feel like a worldwide rally.
Stir it up.
Number 3, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Stir It Up. If Concrete Jungle is the hard day, Stir It Up is the soft place you land at night. It's warm, romantic, and easy, but still deep. Marley sings like he's not trying to impress you. He's just telling the truth.
Ooh, yeah. And now you are here.
The scene, slow dancing in a tiny room, somebody's auntie smiling like she remembers her own first love, and the whole place smelling like rain and perfume. Context matters. Catch a Fire is that 1973 doorway into the world stage, and Stir It Up shows the emotional range. Politics on one side, tenderness on the other.
Come on and stir it up.
Fun fact, the album history even notes how the London work and overdubs shaped the sound for international ears. So songs like this could travel far without losing the roots feeling.
To see what we could do, baby. Just me.
Why it's underrated today? Because the loudest reggae songs get quoted the most. But this is the one that proves reggae can be gentle and still be legendary. And next, no more soft landing. The next tune is a call to action.
Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand.
Number 2, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Get up, stand up. This isn't a song you casually play in the background. This is the kind of record that makes you sit up straight. It's courage in music form. The rhythm is steady, but the message is urgent, like somebody grabbing your shoulder and saying, "Wake up."
Stand up for your rights. You get up.
I remember how it felt when it came on. People didn't just dance, they reacted. You could see faces change. Here are the facts. Burning was released 19th of October 1973, recorded at Harry J's studio in Kingston, with more work done in London, produced by the Wailers and Chris Blackwell.
The fight. Don't give up the fight, no.
And the page lists Get Up, Stand Up as one of the key singles connected to that era. Fun fact, Burnin' later became recognized as a major cultural document. So this isn't just a good track, it's part of an album that history kept pulling forward.
The fight, no. Don't give up the fight. Don't give.
Why it's underrated today? Because modern protest music comes and goes fast. This one stayed because it's simple, direct, and fearless. And now, number 1, the tune that turned reggae into a worldwide conversation starter.
Quick break. If you love music stories like this, check out our sponsor, The Lore Store on Amazon. It's like a special music collection with books, vinyl, gear, and culture picks for rock, pop, hip-hop, R&B, Afro music, and reggae. What I like is that it's not random stuff. Everything is picked on purpose, and there are some real hidden gems in there. And just so you know, when a good item sells out, it may not come back. The link is in the description, and if you shop through it, you're also supporting this channel.
Number 1, Bob Marley and the Wailers, I Shot the Sheriff. This song is storytelling with swagger. It sounds like a man standing in the middle of chaos, telling his side with a straight face, like, believe me or don't, but I'm telling you what happened. The scene is classic. A packed room, the DJ pulls it up, and everybody knows what time it is. Even people who don't listen to reggae somehow know this one. Facts. I Shot the Sheriff is right there in the Burning era, with the album released in October 1973, and it's one of the songs that helped push the Wailers' name far beyond Jamaica.
All around in my hometown.
Fun fact, part of the reason this song became so unstoppable is that it had a story people could debate. Everybody had an opinion, even if they didn't know reggae like that.
But I didn't shoot no deputy.
Why it's underrated today? Crazy enough, it's so famous that people forget how bold it was as a reggae single in that moment. It wasn't safe, it was sharp, it was different, and it demanded attention. If you thought that one was powerful, just remember, 1973 wasn't the peak. Reggae was only getting started.